Right now on KGW, a semi-truck flips on I-205 in southeast Portland after police say a drunk driver slammed into it. What we're learning about the cleanup and the arrest. Plus, a judge throws out 2 terror-related charges against the man accused of killing a healthcare CEO, what remains in the case, and why the judge says terrorism counts didn't hold up. Plus,
what we have here is a series of very concerning behavior.
the masked suspect accused in a robbery spree across southeast Portland is now behind bars. Coming up, what he wore when he allegedly hit coffee shops, fast food restaurants, even a dispensary. And then later.
This is fun. This is not work. This is just fun.
Volunteers in Salem are working to restore a bomber to its former glory. How they hope to get it flying once again ahead on the news at noon. Our top story here at noon, police arrested a man after he crashed into a semi on I-205 in southeast Portland early this morning. That semi-truck then flipped on its side near Powell Boulevard. That crash has since been cleared, but this drone video shows the damage it left behind. A huge mess there. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm Stephanie Domerat. Now police are saying that alcohol may have been a factor leading to that crash. KGW's Thomas Schultz was at the scene all morning and brings us the latest.
After more than 6.5 hours of delays, I-205 has reopened here in southeast Portland after a semi-truck spilled over southbound I-205 into the northbound lane early this morning. Portland police say this all started around 2:30 when the semi lost control after being hit by another driver. They say 25-year-old John C. Lee Jr. was driving the other vehicle involved in the crash under the influence. Lee was arrested for DUI, reckless driving, and criminal mischief, though fortunately police say there were no injuries. The crash led to gridlock traffic here along I-205 in southeast Portland for hours, with that traffic stretching for miles in both directions. In southeast Portland, Thomas Schultz, KGW News.
Well, you may notice some ash blowing in the sky above Mount St. Helens. Don't worry, though, it is not erupting. It's quite a sight, though. The U.S. Geological Survey says winds are blowing ash from the 1980 eruptions and carrying it west to northwest. This is what it looked like just after 11 o'clock this morning. Some commercial pilots have reported it, but it is not having an impact on air travel at this point. Let's get over to Rod Hill now with a look at your weather. Quite a sight in the... Oh, I'm so sorry, Chris. Hi.
Good morning for the first time. No, anytime, yes. Just so you know, Rod is off for the rest of the week, Stephanie.
Okay, great.
Nice to see you again. Thank you. Yes, Stephanie and I have not actually had the privilege of seeing each other in person this morning. So there we go. All right. So to our point about the ash fall off of Mount St. Helens, I don't know if you can see it super well here, but our visible satellite imagery actually does detect what looks like a little bit of cloud formation on the northern end here, up behind right where it says St. Helens, and that would be the ash that's being blown off. And of course, there's no snow up there at this point because it's all melted, and there are very gusty winds across the Cascades, which is part of the weather story today. That's helping to drive the temperatures up across the region. I've got the wrong clicker. How about that? So let's switch gears and show you what's going on here with the current wind gusts. Gusting out of the east at 31 miles an hour at PDX and at Troutdale. And even along the beach right now, Astoria is gusting out of the east at 25. So what that does is it brings the air from higher up, you compress it, you add to the heating that you're getting from the sun as well. So that's where we can see these rapid temperature rises. Case in point, what we're seeing out there right now. It's 20 degrees warmer right now at noon than it was yesterday at this time, and that holds true across much of southwest Washington and northwest Oregon. So there we are, 82 degrees last check at PDX. And elsewhere across the region, already into the 80s in Beaverton, Hillsborough, Wilsonville checking in with 83, and Salem at last report 79. Even pockets that were a little cool this morning, Albany and Corvallis, you're now inching towards 80. And our forecast for the rest of this afternoon has temperatures topping out around 88 degrees or so here in Portland. Not a record, but certainly noticeably warmer today. We'll take the edge off the heat a little bit tomorrow. And then, Stephanie, I'm tracking a little bit of rain in our weekend forecast, and I'll show you all that coming up in just a few minutes.
Okay, we'll see you in just a little bit, Chris. Thank you. A judge in New York dismissed 2 charges against Luigi Mangione, the man accused of gunning down the CEO of United Healthcare last year. Today's ruling came in a state courtroom where supporters of Mangione have been gathering. The judge tossed out the charges of first and second-degree murder, specifically as crimes of terrorism, calling them, quote, legally insufficient. NBC's Stephanie Gosk has the details from New York City.
It was a big win for Luigi Mangione and his defense team here in New York State Court this morning. A judge throwing out 2 of the murder charges against him. These are the charges connected to terrorism. The judge saying that there is insufficient evidence to prove those terrorism charges. There still remains a charge of second-degree murder, but the judge said that to prove the terrorism charge, they would have to prove that there was an intent to coerce and intimidate a population. The judge saying that there was not enough evidence to do that. There is also a federal case against Mangione as well, and there's a murder charge there that if he is convicted of, he could face the death penalty. So far, no trial dates have been set in either of those 2 cases, but a big win here for Luigi Mangione. A crowd had gathered outside of the courthouse. When they heard the news, they cheered. Back to you.
Stephanie Gosk reporting for us there. And your other national headlines this afternoon. President Trump says he is bringing a $15 billion lawsuit against the New York Times. The president accuses the paper of being a, quote, virtual mouthpiece for the Democratic Party. In a recent social media post, President Trump also accused the Times of making false statements about him, his family, and his business. Charlie Kirk shooting suspect Tyler Robinson was formally charged today with felony aggravated murder. Officials announced the charges an hour ago at a press conference in Utah. Robinson was also charged with felony discharge of a firearm, obstruction of justice, and witness tampering. Federal officials say they will seek the death penalty against Robinson, who is now being held in custody without bail. Investors are awaiting big news today at the Federal Reserve with its Board of Governors beginning a 2-day meeting. Many expect it will wrap up tomorrow with an announcement about interest rate cuts. However, some economists are sounding the alarm about what they're calling stagflation. That's the combination of slow economic growth, a rise in unemployment, and inflation. What a scene. That was in Phoenix, Arizona, when a light rail train and a semi-truck collided. Thankfully, all 20 passengers and a light rail driver got off the train safely. The driver of the semi was taken to the hospital, but is also expected to be okay. And those are your national headlines. And right now, closer to home, the Oregon Department of Human Services is asking for help finding a missing teenage girl in foster care who is believed to be in danger. Take a look at your screen. This is 15-year-old Jordan Cushing. She was last seen Sunday and is known to frequent North Portland, Gresham, and Vancouver. If you have any information about where she could be, you're asked to call the number you see here on your screen, 1-855-503-SAFE. A man was arraigned in court this morning after allegedly using a series of masks to rob businesses in Southeast Portland this summer. KGW's Alma McCarty takes a closer look at those crimes.
The Southeast Portland robbery spree began here in late June.
The first victim of the robbery was Dutch Brothers Coffee. It then proceeded through July, August, and picked up toward the end of August and early September.
And in the first video shared Monday afternoon in Multnomah County Court, the suspect rolls up to the drive-through window, pulling what appeared to be a gun on the employee.
And is that mask, if you recall, it looks like it depicts Walter White from the show Breaking Bad?
Yeah, that's correct.
The worker handed over more than $300 in cash, and that pattern would continue, with the suspect allegedly hitting 7 other businesses, in most cases in a hoodie, gloves, and either a rubber or sheer face mask.
Yeah, he was saying give him the money, he didn't want to hurt them, and it was kind of variations of that through the different robberies.
The suspect, identified as 49-year-old Justin Christensen, is accused of robbing the Taco Bell on Southeast Powell, then the Burger King across the street. He also allegedly demanded cash from Starbucks on Powell, and 2 weeks ago took more than $800 and $1,000 worth of products from a marijuana dispensary on Southeast Cesar Chavez. According to court documents, Christensen admitted to detectives that he used pellet guns.
They both matched the description. One was appeared to be like a Glock 19 black, appeared to be a handgun, but it was a pellet gun. And there was also a large silver revolver one as well.
The court deemed most of those robberies qualified as violent felonies. The judge decided Christensen wouldn't be released before his trial.
Based on the circumstances, I agree that potentially one incident in and of itself doesn't necessarily rise to that level, but what we have here is a series of very concerning behavior.
Alma McCarty, KGW News.
A tentative deal is now in place that could keep some Vancouver schoolworkers from going on strike. Now, the group includes paraeducators and technology secretaries who voted last week in favor of going on strike after months of negotiations. A strike would shut down schools in the district, impacting roughly 20,000 students. Higher wages have been one of the main sticking points in the negotiations. The workers have told us it's challenging to keep paraeducators on staff, which they say leads to not enough adults at Vancouver public schools to properly supervise kids. In a statement to families, the school district says the deal came after tough conversations and a lot of give and take. Union members have until October 1st to vote on the new contract offer, and if they agree to it, school board members will deliver their vote at their next scheduled meeting on October 14th. Meantime, another local strike is looming. This one would involve workers with Kaiser Permanente in Oregon and Southwest Washington, specifically unionized nurses and other health professionals who are bargaining with Kaiser alongside 60,000 members of the Alliance of Healthcare Unions in other states. Issues include wages and working conditions. If the union votes in favor of a strike, workers could walk off the job anytime after their current contract expires on September 30th. Kaiser says it does remain optimistic that a fair agreement can be reached, and it also says patient care will not be impacted during the strike vote.